Good morning, welcome to another edition of the Pike County Pulpit Podcast. Coming to you on the side of the road, on County Road 14, here between Detroit and Griggsville, Illinois, by the side of the old Bethel Church. I did not plan on recording a podcast today. I'm out running some errands, and I was driving by Bethel Church, and it's such a beautiful day, and I stopped. It's one of my favorite places to stop, kind of thank and pray, and I decided I wanted to record this podcast, but I don't have any of my equipment with me, so it's a very windy day, so I am in my truck, just parked outside of the Bethel Church, hopefully where you can hear me. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this church and share something from my heart about it. This church, if my understanding is right, was started by the Methodists. This building was built 1883. There's a sign on the door that says erected 1883. And it has never been modernized. Never had running water or electricity added into the building. The church has not been an active church, meeting every Lord's Day for several years, maybe a couple decades now. And it's available to be rented for funerals and weddings and whatever the occasion. I think they have one service a year in August where they have an actual church service here. What I'm interested in is the fact that it was built in 1883. Just a few miles from here is Detroit, where I serve, and our building was erected in 1880. So technically, the oldest part of our building is 3 years older than the Bethel Church. Now, mind you, we've had running water and electricity added. We've added on to the building several times with offices and an overflow and Sunday school classes and restrooms. So, now granted, we didn't have running water until I think the 70s. Somebody can maybe double check me on that. But they still had the outhouses out back up until just not very long ago. And so we're still very much a country church with a neat history. What I'm thinking about is, what's the possibility that the circumstances had switched? It could have easily been said that this was the church modernized and our church was the one never been modernized, and now it's just a shell of what it used to be and a place of memory for people. Very easily could have been the other way around. And in fact, I would dare say the possibility is there. The day may come where the Detroit Christian Church is a church where people just drive by and remember what used to happen there. And it just be a place where Grandma and Grandpa went. And it just be a place of what God used to do there. I'm very grieved with our culture today. But the country church is a dying breed. I can right now name easily a dozen or more country churches here in Pike County. None of them are running hundreds of people. None of them are very wealthy. None of them are even a fraction of what they used to be. Our culture has changed. The day of going to the local church near where you lived is gone. People will drive by several churches to get to their church. And even to the opposite effect, I have people who do not live in Detroit, who live in town, that drive by the city churches to come to us. So I want to be fair and say, some people go out to the country churches, but I'm amazed how many people I know that live way out in the country that drive by multiple churches to go to the one in town. Now, I'm very much a libertarian in a lot of ways. I don't want to use a political analogy, but in every way, I'm very much pro-liberty. I want people to make up their own mind, to serve God, to raise their family, to do the things they do with a free conscience, to do what they think is right for their family. So I don't want to ever put any form of legalism on you that says you must go to the closest church. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is our culture's changed. People are not sentimental like they used to. A church where your parents and grandparents went, people will just quickly leave. And what happens is when mom and dad raise their kids and then the grandkids and raise them in a church and then they go to another church, there's nobody to take grandma's place. And so the country church is scrambling to find workers, and so what ends up happening is the few workers they have get overworked and burned out, and the churches quickly diminish. Whereas the city churches are usually overflowing, usually have more help than they need, usually the place where people can get in and get out and not be relied on. And for some reason, people are drawn to that. They're drawn to a church where they can get in and get out. And the day of all hands on deck, everybody being involved, it's kind of over. And frankly, I would have a hard time sleeping at night knowing that I was pastoring a church that was growing at the expense of the other churches. One thing that I have determined not to do is I am not a sheep stealer. I don't go after people that are in other churches. I don't want to hurt other churches. I want to help the kingdom of God. And I don't want to grow at the expense of others. But unfortunately, that's not the case with everybody. There are a lot of reasons why people don't go to the country churches. I think burnout's the big one. I think convenience is the number one. They want the convenience of going to a church where they don't have to do much and they can just blend in. And the country church is dying. Ironically, you know what happens though? When people really need something, they're on their deathbed, they've gone through a tragedy, something's majorly wrong, it's interesting where they go back or who they call. They don't call the city preacher because most of the time they don't have his phone number. They might get a secretary, that's the best they're going to get. I'm amazed how many times my phone has rang when people need a preacher, when they need a minister. They usually go back to the country church. I'm a big believer in the country church. I don't believe it's possible to efficiently pastor a very large church. I think the model the Lord wants is multiple churches where you can truly shepherd people and know them. I mean, actually know them. And I believe the country church method is the right method. So I say today, long live the old country church. I wrote a song about it a few months ago. First song I've ever written. So far, it's the only song I've ever written. I may include it here on this podcast, a recording of me singing the song a few months ago. And it's from the perspective of a individual who grew up in the country church and left. And you can kind of see the tug of war on their heart of, I left because it was easy, but I feel some obligation to the country church. And you can kind of see the inner struggle. And I'm going to include that here, if I can figure out a way to add that in. But I say today, long live the old country church. And my encouragement to you, if you have to drive by multiple good churches to get to the one in town, you might need to consider getting plugged in at the country church. Long live the old country church. Passed by it on our way to town, until one day it's been torn down. There's an empty lot, the old country church. Great-grandpa built it back in the day. Our family worshiped there every Sunday, singing Amazing Grace, the old country church. Well, we all grew up and life got busy. There's more to offer in the big city. Modern music, youth group, and all of the works. So we moved on from the old country church. Services in a modern band. We need more room and dozen more staff. We keep adding on at our big city church. Don't know the pastor can't call his phone. Never eaten a meal in his home. There's just too many at our big city church. Well, we all grew up and life got busy. The country church was itty bitty. We needed programs convenient and children's church. So we moved on to the old country church. Country preacher got a part-time job. He still finds time to visit Grandma. They're the salt of the earth at the old country church. Make an appearance for a special program. I sit by Grandpa, hold Grandma's hand. I did my duty to the old country church. Well, we all grew up and life got busy. They kept asking me to join committees. They needed volunteers to help with the work. It wore me out, the old country church. The preacher read the 23rd Psalm. Still can't believe Grandpa's really gone. We reminisced at the old country church. The church held on a few more years. I'll never forget my mama's tears the day they closed that old country church. Well, we all grew up and life got busy. There's more to offer in the big city. Modern music, youth group, all of the works. We didn't need the old country church. We passed by it on our way to town, till one day it's been torn down. It's an empty lot, the old country church.